99% of people are poisoning themselves with sugar. That includes you watching the video right now. Sugar is found in every plant. So that's fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, all contain sugar. If you're eating sugar, you are on a fast track to diabetes, heart disease, liver problems, and so much more. And just like you, I didn't know this information 6 years ago. That means that 6 years ago, I was still overeating sugar daily. I was overweight. I had joint pain everywhere. And I had had that joint pain for more than 23 years. I'd gotten used to this idea of walking through the world feeling awful all the time because I didn't know the connection. But anyways, my point is I was eating sugar excessively, ridiculously excessively, without even knowing that sugar was a problem. How much sugar is actually too much? Well, when I thought I was eating too much sugar, it was often because I had overeaten, I'd had a second bowl of ice cream, or maybe I'd had a few extra cookies, and I was feeling guilty, and I was feeling bad about what I had just eaten, because I know that junk food isn't good for me. I know that junk food is a problem. What I wasn't thinking about was the banana that I had had in my breakfast, on top of my oatmeal that I had for breakfast, trying to be healthy. What I didn't know is that the pasta that I was having on my plate for supper was causing problems for my health, right? Especially since I was purchasing the whole grain pasta, sometimes even the green spinach pasta that I absolutely believed was better for my health. I was buying whole grain bread, which I forced myself to eat because I didn't like it, but I thought it was better for my health. So I'm doing all these things that I feel is going to help me to be healthier, not knowing. I was eating all the foods that the people around me were either eating and having no problem, or telling me to eat because they're saying it's going to be better for you, Violet. It's going to help you to not have a problem. I was eating the same as everybody else and having problems. I'm not going to lie. I was still eating cookies. I was still eating junk food, but so was everybody else. Why am I the one who's overweight? Because that was the part that I was looking at. I wasn't even thinking about the joint issues. I was looking at my weight issue and not truly understanding what was happening. 6 years ago, I learned that the weight issue and the joint pain issue was connected. What does it mean when they say the dose makes the poison? And you usually hear doctors say that or scientists say that. Well, what I learned 6 years ago was that if you have metabolic damage and you eat more than 20 grams of carbs in a day, you're poisoning your body. Can I first point out that poisoned and toxic are two different words, right? Like often when I listen to people talk about, eating healthy and keto and low carb and all this, they say sugar is toxic. That's a term that's thrown around a lot. But in my mind, toxic and poisonous don't sound the same. When I was growing up, there were lots of campaigns in school to help us understand not to ingest things that were poisonous. I mean, we learned about excessive drinking being poisonous. We learned about, chemicals being poison. They were really trying to help us understand not to put certain things in our body because it could end poorly. I don't have the same reaction to toxic that I have to the word poisonous. Right? You think of a snake, even though the snake's venom is toxic, you hear snake bite, person is sick, and you think they were poisoned by the snake bite. So, venom, poison, toxin, all of these words are coming back to the same idea, but I can tell you clearly, for me, poisonous is the word that I want to hear when you're trying to get me to understand why I shouldn't touch something. But going back to my problem, I was already 70 pounds overweight. When I'm learning about metabolic issues and so being overweight is a sign that you have metabolic issue. Like, so all of a sudden I'm finding out that I have metabolic issues, and if I eat more than 20 grams of carbohydrates, I am poisoning myself. Now, I want to be clear. There are other signs that you have metabolic damage. I'm going to run through them here with you because you should know if you have any of these signs. So we have inflammation in the joints, which I had, edema, which is fluid retention. Usually it's in your calves and in your ankles. Digestive issues. So things like constipation and diarrhea, which that's an inflammation of your digestive system, right? But also acid reflux, bloating, gas, low energy or fatigue is another, which I did have fatigue. I would have to take a nap in the afternoon. Sometimes, like, especially if I wasn't super busy, I'm falling asleep back before I got healthy. So these are things that we don't know are signs of metabolic issue, right? We have food cravings, another one. Chasing sugary tasting things, that was my thing. Chasing chocolate was my thing. Other people chase other things, but food cravings is another sign of metabolic problems. Increased hunger is another sign. Reduced libido. Ladies, can I point out that we are often encouraged to, like, oh, if you're sad, eat some ice cream, or, self-soothe with like these sweet tasting things. On Valentine's Day, we get this big, beautiful box of chocolates. And then we're constantly wondering why our sex drive has fallen away. I mean, we are encouraged to eat sugar so much. And then that's a frustration for me. Let me just tell you, when I learned that low libido was a sign of metabolic issues, because metabolic issues are caused by overeating sugar. Okay, anyways, anxiety and depression, period issues, again, things that we struggle with so much. And when we feel bad, how do we self-soothe? A lot of the time with chocolate, a lot of the time with sweet tasting things. Prolonged recurring colds, flus, like not having good immunity and being able to bounce back from being ill, sleep disturbances, and mood issues. Did I miss anything? Like, these are the things that are signs that you have metabolic issues. So the dose makes the poison? Is that really what this is about? Like the question that comes to me now is, what are the things that we're eating that's causing this problem? And obviously processed foods. Okay. And so at that moment, we have not only sugar, but we also have whatever chemicals they put in to the processed food. We have the poor quality oils, which doctors are saying and now understand contribute to insulin resistance and health problems. So that's that metabolic issue again, poor quality oils. But if we look at the healthy foods, the foods that we're told to eat for our good health. So our body uses glucose as its energy source. It makes it itself, so we technically never have to eat it. But that's the sugar that our body is expecting, that our body is looking for, that it's working with, for all of its metabolic processes that it's doing. And so this is part of the reason that we're constantly being told that we need sugar, right? We need to eat sugar because our body needs it for these metabolic processes that it's going to do. If I look at the sugar that's coming in, we have things like table sugar. So putting it in your coffee, putting it on your cereal that doesn't taste sweet enough, putting it on your fruit that's not sweet enough. So we use table sugar to make things taste a little better to us, those healthy things that we're supposed to be having, right? The fruits, but also and the cereals, right? So table sugar is half glucose, half fructose. So the glucose, my body knows exactly what to do with. And then you have fruits and vegetables and legumes and nuts and seeds and all the things that we eat that are healthy. Again, we have glucose and we have fructose. Our body is expecting that glucose. It needs to process the fructose. It's not expecting that. And here's the problem. Our body cannot do anything positive with the fructose. So it just all goes to our liver to be processed in our liver. And what I learned 6 years ago is the damage that it's causing to our liver. Our liver is just overloaded with all the fructose that we're taking in from processed foods, that we're taking in from like normal foods. Our body is being overloaded. So Wellness Warrior, is that strictly about the dose? Again, if we were taking in glucose, then it would be a dose story, right? Strictly a dose story. But the fact that we're taking in sugars, and I mean, I haven't talked about the other kind of sugars that we take in. I'm just talking about fructose right now. But we're taking in this sugar that my body doesn't know what to do with. We are being told to eat fruits and vegetables because they're healthy. And we, when we look at it in our history, they're saying, yes, your ancestors ate meat and potatoes, and they ate meat and potatoes all the time, and they weren't sick like us. If you look over in China, they ate lots of rice, and they're not sick like us. Wellness Warrior, I want to point out something that is being ignored. Meat and potatoes. Potatoes is starch. What is a starch? It's a bunch of glucose molecules attached together. And when you break down a bunch of starch, you get a bunch of glucose. Exactly what my body knows what to do. When you break down rice, you get glucose. Exactly what my body knows what to do with. When you eat a starch, you end up getting what your body knows what to do with. Back then, our grandparents and our great-grandparents were managing better because they were eating something that their body actually knew what to do with. And can I point out that they were thin? They were not metabolically challenged. They were not struggling because they weren't eating high amounts of processed food, and they weren't eating high amounts of these other foods that contain so much fructose, whether it's fruit or grains or what, these other things that had so much fructose in them that it was causing them to not manage. And they're eating more meat, by the way, on their plate. When you looked at images of what their plates look like, their plates were smaller, first of all, but also that the meat portion was the meal and the starch was the side. We've made the starch the meal and the meat is the side. We've turned everything upside down. We've decided to add so much other types of carbohydrates that are high in fructose. We put fructose, because we put table sugar, in our spaghetti sauce. Wellness Warrior, the sugar in our meals is overwhelming our body, is damaging our body, and it's causing us to struggle. Today, more than 40% of the people on the planet are overweight. More than 13% of the people on the planet are obese. Add to that all the people walking around with joint pain and recurring issues from the list that I mentioned earlier. You need to understand that these issues mean metabolic problems have already started. These processes are on their way. So if you're one of these people, you actually need to act now. Step one is that you need to stop eating processed food immediately, right now, this minute. We think it's harmless fun, but it isn't. It's damaging your health and it's causing your body to struggle. Step two is to get your carb count down to under 20 grams each day. And that might seem daunting. That might seem like a big task. Start, right? Because the reason that's so important is that if you're eating less than 20 grams of carbs each day, then your body is actually going to be able to manage what you're eating and start to heal itself. Because right now, your body is a mess with the amount of sugar you're eating if you're eating more than 20. And because of our metabolic damage, if we keep that number over 20 grams every day, we're just damaging our body more and more every single day. Getting it under 20 starts that healing process. Now, that's going to be super important because when we start that healing process, the other thing that's going to happen is that your cravings are going to also get under control. So we're looking at long-term health, Wellness Warrior. My body's healing itself, and then I'm not chasing anymore. And so what that means is that as my body heals and I'm not eating those inflammatory foods anymore, I can actually lose weight. I can actually get energy back. solve my joint, all that list of things that they talked about go away. They heal themselves, and you start to feel better. Your mood regulates, all these amazing positive outcomes. The third thing that you're going to do is realize that the keto diet, which is the diet that I described, step 2, eating less than 20 grams every day, that's not a diet. It's a healthy way of living. It's your new healthy lifestyle that you're going to do moving forward. So the third thing that you need to do is find delicious ways to cook the meat, poultry, fish, eggs that you're going to be eating, and the vegetables, those low carb vegetables that you're going to be eating. You need to find delicious ways that you can eat those vegetables so that you're encouraged to eat this moving forward. And I'm going to add to this that because the keto diet puts you in a ketogenic state, so you're burning fat for fuel instead of burning carbohydrates for fuel, somehow, and not a doctor, I don't understand this, but somehow if I bring my carbohydrates under 20 and I choose those low glycemic vegetables, some of those low glycemic vegetables have fructose in them. But by keeping the number super small, instead of overloading my liver is able to manage. And I'm saying that because I want you to understand something. When we're this inflamed, like as inflamed as I was with 70 pounds extra on my body and inflamed joints, and heaven only knows what else was brewing internally for me, when we're that inflamed, putting those starchy things on our plate somehow causes us to chase, first of all. But second of all, the amount of those starchy vegetables that we would be able to eat because of our history with these foods, it's not satisfying, right? I think when I did the math one time, you could eat 4 French fries to get to 20 grams of carbs. Like, that's not satisfying. And so you end up overeating because you want more than 4 French fries. So choosing the low glycemic vegetables, even though there's a little bit of fructose in them, ends up working in our favor. As time progresses, we all make our decisions, right? I've decided in my healthy lifestyle that I only eat veg 2-ish times a week. And when I do eat it, I'm well under 10 grams of carbs to help myself make sure that I'm making my liver a priority. A healthy liver means that I have better cleanup in my system altogether. Make health your priority. Our body can only manage less than 20 grams of carbohydrates if we're in this metabolic damage situation. So if you resume eating more than 20 grams of carbohydrates, you're putting your health at risk, Wellness Warrior. I'm sure you have questions. So I want you to put those in the comments below, because this isn't hard, Wellness Warrior. But what you need is support and answers. So let's talk about it.